In 1970, Rupert Neve was commissioned to build a recording and mixing console for Wessex Studios in London. The resulting product was the A88 console. Now, there was a lot to like about the A88 console, but what stood out in particular was its input and EQ module, known as the 1073. Now, the 1073 did everything that a good input section on a console should do. It could handle a wide variety of microphones, it could bring the signal up to a line level without increasing the noise floor, it isolated the signal from outside interference, and it had an EQ that could complement the musicality of any input signal. Now, it achieved all this by using what might be considered outdated technology even for the time. It used a Class A amplifier, which is less efficient than a Class AB amplifier. It used transformers, which are larger, less efficient, and have more variability in terms of manufacturing tolerance than op amplifiers or differentials. And all this was contained inside a discrete circuit, which was less efficient, took up more space, and required more specialized knowledge to maintain. And yet the engineers at Wessex Studios really liked this preamp. Why? The answer is deceptively simple. It's the sound. The 1073 added character to the sound that was very pleasant to listen to. And this wasn't by accident. Rupert Neve knew what he was doing. He had a keen understanding of how the various components inside an audio circuit can impart its own flavor to a sound. While the rest of the industry was pursuing quality in the form of precision and transparency, Rupert Neve was pursuing quality in the form of emotion, character, and musicality. Now, unlike more objective metrics based on mathematical models such as technical transparency, engineering efficiency, and cost reduction, character, emotion, and musicality are all subjective qualities. So how do you go about designing and building a product whose quality is very subjective in nature that can still be effectively used across a wide range of applications and remains a staple in the audio industry for over 50 years?
It's a matter of judgment, of listening and listening and listening.
So why don't we just listen to one ourselves? All right, so here's a recent mix I did. Okay, and the first thing I want to actually talk about are the vocals. So let's listen to this passage again and pay attention to the vocals, and I'm just going to toggle the 1073 on and off here. The difference is actually quite subtle, but still very noticeable. It feels like you're kind of taking the blanket off the speakers. So let's open one of these up here and just take a look at what's going on. So I've got two boosts going on here in the top end, and it's got this nice roll off in the top end too, above like 10K. So you can really get aggressive as you want with this thing without adding too much of those sibilants because it's rolling off past that 10K point. And because the bands are broad enough, I can shape the sound without really like changing the character of it too much. So I've got a little bit of boost here, and then I've got a boost again at 7K.
How do I come back from this if I keep falling down? Saying sick for now. How do I come back from this if I keep falling down?
So this band seems to be doing most of the heavy lifting actually. So it's really just bringing that presence in from the vocal, and this just adds a little bit of air on top of that.
How do I come back from this if I keep falling down?
And this is actually what I think is bringing the vocal forward. It's kind of adding some of that proximity effect where the more low end you have, the closer up it feels. So, and then another thing I want to point out is that I'm just cranking this input. So a very, very popular technique when it comes to using the 1073 is to just boost that input to get as much saturation as you can, and then compensating it here with the fader. So let's take a look at the guitars. So I have an instance of the 1073 on each of my individual left-right guitar tracks, and then one on the bus as well. So let's look at the individual tracks. doing a similar thing where I'm just trying to add some saturation, not as much as I needed with the vocal, because by their nature, electric guitars, especially distorted electric guitars, are going to have plenty of saturation and harmonics in them. But I wanted to add a little bit of presence to the guitars, so I'm doing a boost here at 1.6, which is like a pretty standard frequency. So just helping them cut through the mix a little bit there. And then what is really interesting here is what I did on the guitar bus. I made a boost here at 360. And the reason I did this is because I was noticing that the mix overall was just lacking in warmth. And so if I were to show you the bass track as well, I have the same EQ move happening here, where at 360 hertz, which is like, very low mid-range, I'm just making a subtle boost here, but it makes a huge difference. It actually really complements the boost I'm making in the upper mid range at 1.6. I feel like it really kind of mellows it back out. So you're getting the presence, but then you're also getting this warmth out of it. So here's with everything off. And why don't we listen to this in context as well? And then one more thing I wanted to actually show you was this Snare FX track I have here. And I'm doing basically the same thing. So I don't know if it's like a theme of the mix or what, but this 360 hertz, it just seemed like the mix needed a lot of it. Now, on parts where the drums are playing in like halftime, so let's find a spot like that here. Take a listen to how it sounds without this boost at 360 hertz. And I'm cranked it. So here's without. You barely hear it, but now I turn it on. It really just brings out like the essence of that snare in that room. Now, I'm kind of surprised I went with 360. I feel like my instinct would have told me to start somewhere at 700, and maybe I did, but I bet it sounded just too honky or something like that. Let's take a listen. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it sounds honky. I just think it wasn't what I was going for. So I ended up just at 360, which just really sounds nice and warm. I love it. Well, as always, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed my take on the Neve 1073. If you or someone you know is in need of any kind of audio or music related services, such as mixing, recording, producing, help with songwriting, I will leave my email and a link to my SoundBetter profile in the description below.